Precisely. And, this is what's not recognized. The left, between MSNBC and CNN, how are you going to get further left than these two? And the idea that you can have Sky News, which I've watched many times in Europe and in.
Hey out there, this is May 19th, 2017. It's a Friday here in Northern California where it's just about exactly 10:40 in the morning. And today I'm going to talk about the usual kind of stuff, run the gamut, current events, talking points, epiphanies, thoughts, that kind of thing. Mainly, I wanted to focus on the deliberate division that's being induced by certain empowered people, let's say, people like George Soros, for example, and what the purpose is for that in the scheme of the New World Order. I wanted to talk about clarifying subjective terms and the importance of this in order to have a productive conversation, because so many terms that are bandied about daily to me are going over people's heads. Either that or the two people that are conversing, let's say, or two or more, when these terms are used, have different ideas of what that term means precisely. And I wanted to try to clarify some of those subjective terms, which is, to me, a part of education. It's a part of information. And in order to be empowered, we have to have a meeting of the minds when it comes to conversing and to gleaning some kind of benefit from that conversation. We have to be very clear that we're using the term in the right way. So it's critical, I think, that that I kind of every time I use a word, for example, that I define it in the way that it's meant to be used. Like when I talk about money and this idea of working toward a world without money, that doesn't mean a cashless society. For example, money. I'm not talking about in the form of cash, fiat currency. I'm talking about money as a concept. That we can render it irrelevant, and the way to do that is, of course, through true capitalism, which is antithetical to what we have now, which is crony capitalism, which is, of course, inducing all the communism. If you put two and two together, you can see it's not happening in a vacuum. That communism is indeed being manufactured, and this is part of the division. Because people believe they're on the high road when they believe in communism. They believe it's the party of the people. I'm just saying, this is the perception of so many people. The socialism, it's the People's Party, blue collar, working class party, egalitarian even. I think that they would all agree that that's their party. They're the good guys, in other words. This is the widely held perception among these people. And I think people that were brought up differently with different values, they got different peers, different, just different. They've kept different company over the years, political company, let's say, or values company, philosophy, belief system company that people have kept, has a lot to do with the way they believe and think today. And we all have to take that into account when we're trying to reach somebody. If we're so convinced, so convicted that our belief system is right, then we've got to find a way to convey it, because it is of utmost importance that we nullify this division that's being deliberately created. And the other thing I just wanted to say was, the older I get, the more I have empathy for my fellow human beings. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all human beings, friend and foe alike, because this is tough. It's tough being human. And it doesn't get easier, okay? Because as your body ages, you realize that more and more your mortality factor, you get closer and closer to the grave. You know that just like sands in an hourglass, they're running out. And you've got a very little bit of time on this earth, and that time is very insecure and tenuous at best, because it could be over for any one of us at any time. And that's the reality we have to live in. So it takes a lot of courage and bravery just to be a human being. And we don't always feel like we have it. I mean, which one of us can say that we're not weak at times, and we don't fail at times, and we're not all pathetic at times, and we don't all dislike ourselves, if not hate ourselves at times. Nevertheless, at the end of the day, there's nobody else that we would rather be. It's a phenomenon to me. And I'm sure that there's in the psychological and psychiatric realms, there's a term for this. But it really is quite a phenomenon. It's like a fail-safe God put in us, just like the conscience. And he's working on each one of us, and we're all individual. And that's the way it's going to remain in eternity. And time is a constant. Eternity is a constant, I believe. And all the good stuff that we glean at this time around, we get to keep in the hereafter. Wherever we're going from here, if it's truly good, then that makes it real, and that makes it eternal. So you get to keep all the good characteristics about yourself and personality and the nature that you have, the good things, and the rest goes away because it's the dross. And a lot of that has to do with our worldly nature, the ego, the vanity, the conceit, the carnal nature, the flesh. All these things are dross, and they're all going to go because they're temporal. They're just like a dream. Okay, we all know that everything that we're familiar with in this realm, even our children, parents, relatives, it's all going to be something of the past. It doesn't mean we can't keep good memories, but we know that everything we're familiar with, every little thing, we have to let go. We have to be, like Jesus said, born again. Okay, we're all going to go through this thing called death. Even if you're the generation that never tastes the first death, like Jesus talked about in the last days, before the end of the age and the beginning of the new age, in the twinkling of an eye, people get new bodies. They get the perishable body, this one, the flesh, carnal body, meets the imperishable in the twinkling of an eye, just like that. Okay, this is where the whole rapture thing comes from. So this is a beautiful thing to look forward to. That, you know, I might be part of this special generation, because I need a new body. I've had an ache in my arm all week. I lift this weed whacker on a regular basis for my job duties, and edging large lawns and keeping that thing in the same position the whole time. I'll tell you, it gets tough, and this elbow has been sore for the better part of the last month, I think, at least. But anyhow, I know, and this past week, I had a tooth removed, and I just thank God for the dentists in this world, for inspiring people to become dentists, because I don't know what we would do without them. I just don't know. So I thank God for all the dentists, and I just can't say enough. I wanted to kiss my dentist this past week. It was this last Monday. I found a good dentist away from the corporate dentistry, which has been termed chop shops. But I found a good dentist, and he turns out to be a Sikh man, Sikh. Very, very honorable faith, very decent, upright characters. These people, I can't say nice enough things about the Sikhs, but these guys wear the turbans typically, and I love my dentist to death, and his assistant too, another guy. But both of them probably Middle Eastern roots. They look like it, but Arabian, whatever. It doesn't bother me a bit, man. I'll tell you one thing, I wasn't raised to be as a racist. I'll tell you, my mother is second generation, her mother was born in Dalmatia, but my mother was born in East LA. I'm second generation. My children are third generation Californians. But my mother, being brought up in East LA, she spoke fluent Spanish because there's a lot of Latinos in East LA when she was growing up even. And my mother was, oh gosh, how old was she? I guess she had to be at least 23 or 24 years older than me. So that means she was brought up there in the 30s and 40s, I guess. So anyhow, but I really like all people from everywhere. Asians, you meet great people from everywhere, and we're just people. I mean, we're really incredibly diverse creatures, very individual, and the best thing I have arrived at in terms of beliefs is that we are all equal. It's a very American thing. And I believe that people that they don't prescribe to equality. I mean, there's a term to define what type of equality. Am I equally good as this guy at building a house? No, heavens no. Is he equally good at me at edging a lawn? No, heavens no. you know, and on in that theme. Practice makes perfect. So, we're all unequal in many ways. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's, but when it comes to the higher definition of equality, human being is a human being. And if you don't believe that we are equally righted and privileged and entitled and loved, basically, granted by God, okay, then you believe by default in inequality. And that's a very dangerous, slippery slope, because if you believe in a little bit of inequality, you say, well, yeah, I believe in economic inequality to this degree, okay? And you see what I mean? It opens up a can of worms. It opens up Pandora's box. And then you've got no standing to decide, well, this guy says that he believes inequality should be over here. So unless you're going to go run his life and say, no, I'm your dictator. I'm the authority. I'm your boss. And I'm going to tell you that that's wrong, and your conscience is letting inequality go too far. You see the problem I'm talking about? So I don't want to harp on that all day. I'll probably go over it again. But this is very important for people to understand, this business about equality and how it's in our Constitution. I mean, you're not a good American, basically, if you don't believe in equality. You're not prescribing to the constitutional values. So that's a big deal. So we had another head-on wreck here locally in Chico. I guess I'm going to get right into current events right now, but I hope I remember to touch on subjective terms and try to remember that I need to clarify what I'm trying to convey to people when I'm doing it, because my object is to heal division, to bring people together, to let people know that I truly am, genuinely am everybody's friend. Okay, that's all I want to be. I don't want to be anybody's enemy. That doesn't mean I'm not going to have enemies, okay, because they can object to the things I'm saying. They can disagree vehemently even, because I know there's a lot of consternation to people that have this belief that I have in idealism, in egalitarianism, in readying ourselves, our hearts, our minds, our spirits, our thinking, our belief systems, readying them for a world void of money. Okay, this is the only way we're going to get out from under the thumb of Satan. Okay, this is it. This is his numero uno weapon, okay, against humanity, to keep us at each other's throats, to keep the social, political, economic division thriving. Okay, this is all he's got. And if we don't understand basic economic philosophy, we're not going to understand squat. Because I can tell you this much, that there's nothing wrong with Luciferians loving Lucifer. Okay, God loved Lucifer. Let's understand who Lucifer was in the beginning in the Bible, what it talks about. Lucifer was one of only two very special beings. These were cherubs, right, that covered the throne of God, literally. So whoever this being is, this benevolent, artistic, lover of life, okay, that laid out the universe and all the flora and all the fauna therein, everything, gave us our imagination to be like God and to construct stuff starting with our mind, with this invisible thing called a thought, called our imagination, and we go out and do this stuff. That's who God is. I mean, so he's just pure and good. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's very logical to presume that, we have certain instincts that mimic God, like being a good parent. We don't want to be a piece of crap, okay? So Lucifer was this highly exalted, one of only two super special beings. This is the way the story goes. And whether there's many gods, we're talking about here, maybe a god for each galaxy, I don't know. Behind me, you can see this poster I talked about picking up and setting up. This is of the Andromeda galaxy, purportedly our closest galaxy, but one of the only ones we can see with our naked eye, although there's some debate about that. But, I believe in one God, and, this is something the Sikhs believe in, is one God. And so it's very compatible with Christianity. I believe with Muslims. I don't, a true Muslim. I mean, a true Muslim is just like a true Christian. I mean, you're good, decent, upright people. Okay, everybody wants the same stuff, and the same with Jews, the Judaism. I mean, people can use a name, they can call themselves whatever they want. That doesn't make it so. The proof is in the pudding. If you sit them down and you say, let's hear your belief systems, your philosophies, and, and put them on a polygraph while you're doing it, okay, then you might get to the truth and the bottom of things. And only, you discover who the truly good Muslims were, who the truly good Christians were, who the truly good Buddhists were, who the truly good Jews were. Okay, and it's the same thing in politics too. You're going to find out, who the truly good conservatives are, who the truly good liberals are, who the truly good Democrats are, who the truly good Republicans are, who the truly good communists are, who the truly good liberals are, or socialists are, who the truly good capitalists are. It's that same thing. You understand? Is that let's see your beliefs and put you on a polygraph at the same time.